Welcome to our May 21st Board of County Commissioners meeting. And we will begin our meeting as usual with an invocation led by Commissioner Akins.
Bow with me if you will. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that we can come together in this state, this country, and this county that we all love so much. And we thank you for the blessings that you've bestowed on all of it and all of us. We pray, Lord, that you'll lead, guide, and direct all of our actions tonight and that it may be pleasing to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We always like to take the opportunity to recognize county employees who have tenured service with us, and we'll do that at this time. Kelly Kazaya in Human Services completed 5 years. Aubrey Lofton in Public Works 5 years. Joe Hunter in the Tax Administration 5 years. With 10 years of service, we have Ashley Burtz in Human Services, Jamie Hargett in Public Works, and Amber Lambert in Human Services. Also, Christopher Helms in Administrative Services has 20 years. We have some retirements that were in May, and that was Evelyn Cox in the Register of Deeds Office with 20 years service, Lisa Curitan, Human Services with 20 years, and David Womack, 28 years with Human Services. We wish them well in their retirement and thank these employees for their service to the county. At this time, we will take our informal comments. We had no one sign up this evening, so we will move to our additions, deletions, and adoption of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Mr. Helms?
I make a motion we remove item 32 to address in a later meeting.
Can I ask for clarification as to why we're withdrawing?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I said, can I ask for a reason as to why we're withdrawing that?
Because in communication with the mayor of Waxhaw, their understanding of the plan didn't necessarily, they were concerned that it would may be different than what their understanding was, and asked that we get together with them and clarify that, and we can have it at the next meeting.
Well, I'm very confused because I just texted the mayor of Waxhaw and he told me that he wants it approved and he wants it on tonight, so I'm a little confused.
Well, I've got one 30 minutes ago that said just the opposite, so
Well, mine's less than 30 minutes. It was at 6:58, so.
Okay, we have a request to amend the agenda, and we have a request to not amend the agenda. So we'll take a vote. All those in favor of amending the agenda with Commissioner Helms' indication of item 32, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
We have a motion from Commissioner Akins to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
nay.
Takes us to our consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Takes us to old business. Item 31, Weeks Retail.
Yes, Commissioners, at your last meeting, you did conduct a public hearing as it related to this conditional rezoning request, and Mr. Matthews is here to provide any additional information to the board or answer any questions before you all take action.
I realize that Commissioner Harrison is not here at the last meeting, so if you'd like, I can certainly go through the case if you'd like, or I can answer any questions you might have.
I do have some concerns because this is on Providence, and, you know, I know that NCDOT has not come up with whether it's gonna be a super street or not a super street. But, I believe, that this was supposed to be like with a CrossFit being there.
Yes, ma'am, that is my
And-
understanding, that's correct.
Brian, can you pull the microphone? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Brian, in the interest of, and welcome again, Ms. Harris. In the interest of that, let's go through it. We have time this evening
Okay,
for you to
all
do
right,
that.
very good. So,
Throw it up there.
got a, first off, yeah, it's just to give you some reference points where the property is, as Commissioner Harris indicated, this is on Providence Road. The request is a conditional rezoning, from residential to B2 conditional zoning. That requires that the project has to meet the site plan as submitted, and there are some limits for some uses. One is a CrossFit type gym. The other is eating establishments, personal fitness, as I said, also some office, and then some light retail is what they're asking for as far as the use goes. It is just north of the intersection of Newtown Road. There is a plan to widen Highway 16 at some point. We believe that that's within about the next 5 years. That's what we anticipate. No design actually from DOT at this point yet, so we really don't know the right-of-way requirements for this project. It is slated to be at a minimum a 4-lane thoroughfare, but we don't have any design criteria yet for that roadway. Just to give you some little bit of background, this is the project. It is about 1.5 acres total in size, but by the time you take out the assumed right-of-way, which is 100 foot, which would be 50 feet on this side, it roughly reduces the size down to almost 1 acre, a little over 1 acre in size for the whole project. It's broken into 2 buildings, total of 8,100 square feet. The larger building here is about 5,100 and 3,000 square feet for this building. They are requesting they would meet the standard buffers for the county, which is an S2 level screening buffer for the project. And here are just some general photos for it. It was actually supposed to have sort of almost a barn feel to the main building. You can see some of the other building location. This is the smaller building here in the parking area. That's the 3,000 square foot building. And the applicant currently property is residential in nature. And that is, the staff has reviewed this. It is outside of the neighborhood center. So there's a neighborhood center identified in this area here where you have Newtown and Providence Road. That's about 1/4 mile in radius. This property is outside of that neighborhood center. However, inside of our single-family district, which this is in, we also have a component that does allow for small retail or small commercial. We would define this as small. Usually our trigger is around 10,000 square feet or less is what we consider small as far as that goes. So while the project is outside of the neighborhood center, it is somewhat consistent with the plan in that it does fit into that small commercial category as far as single-family residential goes. And I'll be happy to answer any more questions you might have.
How many parking spaces?
So the total spaces, I believe, is 40 at this point in time. And that just, that does exceed the minimum requirements. They do have minimums, they do exceed the minimum requirements for the area.
And this was a 3-2 vote by the board.
That is
and
correct, yes.
one of them just didn't vote, so that's why it's 3.
That's correct. I'm sorry, I didn't reiterate that. So the planning board heard this request. It was a 3-2 decision in favor of the request. However, the third vote in favor was actually a non-vote by one of the members. He did not request to be recused, so his vote automatically counted in the affirmative for the motion, so that's why it was a 3-2 vote. Some of the concerns that were raised by the dissenting members with traffic on Providence Road, and that, of course, it was outside of that neighborhood center area. That was some of the concerns that were raised.
And both of those are still my concern. Providence Road, trying to make a left-hand turn out anywhere onto Providence Road going towards Waxhaw, doesn't matter what time anymore, it's becoming a nightmare. And it certainly isn't gonna get better until construction, and then my understanding is they're gonna put up barriers, so it's gonna be even worse.
Yes, ma'am, you're absolutely right. This project, if it were to be built, is requiring a right in and right out only. So all traffic would have to go to the right. And some of the concern from the neighborhood here with Victoria Lake is that anyone trying to make a left would actually go into Victoria Lake, turn around, and then come back to make that left before Providence is actually widened. Once it's widened, that may be a different story, but right now, that's part of their concern.
Mr. Hills.
Is the 40 parking spaces, is that with the 1 acre or the
That is
current
in
acre and a half?
That is in the 1 acre footprint, yes, sir.
So everything that they've submitted here is based on losing that space.
They've actually allocated the 50-foot right-of-way as part of their plan, and they are dedicating that right-of-way for the project. Now, what we don't know is that enough? Or will more of the widening occur on the other side of the roadway? They won't need to give up 50 feet. We don't know at this point in time. We're assuming a symmetrical design, which would be 50 on either side, but it could change.
Do you have a slide showing that area, that circle around Newtown and Providence? And
So this is the property here. Unfortunately, my pointer doesn't work on this one, but as you can see, the property is just outside of that. I believe that's close to 1,000 feet outside of that circle.
thank you.
And what is the makeup of that land between that and that circle?
It is, so let me go back to. So if you got here, again, the circle comes out to about right here. This is all residential in this area. This is actually property that's part of the HOA. This property here was, I'm sorry, this property here was recently rezoned. That is the property that was the old fire station. Above that, this is the small lot that was actually denied as far as a rezoning request. And then this parcel here was actually approved for conditional zoning office. And then what you have here is more HOA space. This is HOA space, and the balance of this is all residential. And then
So
across-
basically, you go from commercial to green space to proposed commercial.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Well,
Any more questions for me?
any more questions? I'm going to motion that we deny the conditional rezoning petition. It grieves me some to put off commercial opportunities, but at the same time, we have a planning department that comes up, and the board comes up with master plans, and we try to be consistent, or we would hope that we were consistent. And you have residential on both sides of that parcel. So I think you have to pick a point and stop, and for me, that's the point. So, motion to deny. Any discussion? And the applicable consistency statement, which company is that? Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Takes to item 32.
Yes, Mr. Gosicki is here to present this item to you. This is relating to the Waxhaw wastewater system planning. It's an addendum request to our master plan. This information was presented to our board, I believe it was on March 26th, and Ed is going to provide you an overview of the information.
Thank you, Ms. Coe. Chairman, Commissioners. Again, as Ms. Coda said, this is an update to the wastewater master plan that was adopted by the board back in 2016. This is a specific addendum to deal with the Waxhaw area. The board will recall that as part of the development of our 2010 water and sewer master plan, the board formulated a policy that basically said if a municipality within the county was looking at downtown development or downtown redevelopment or the development of the downtown, that the county would provide the sewer capacity to that town center area to make sure that that development could take place. And we've done that now for Mineral Springs. We have an agreement to do that with Stallings, and this is essentially a follow-up on that effort with the town of Waxhaw. So the master plan recommends some detailed study. There's an existing 8-inch sewer line that serves most of the downtown Waxhaw area. It was nearing capacity. There were some overflows of an existing regional pump station that also serves that downtown area. That was also nearing capacity. The town of Waxhaw has moved forward now with the adoption of a new comprehensive plan in 2016. And that was really the catalyst to then work with them on, if this is your new development plan for your town, how do we meet your wastewater service needs based upon that plan? And again, as I mentioned, the board's policy from 2011 to support that downtown development. So, brief overview of what we're dealing with. So this is the downtown Waxhaw area here. This is Providence Road coming north-south. 75 Waxhaw Highway going east-west. And the way the sewer system works here is everything on the north side of Waxhaw Highway flows by gravity north up to our wastewater treatment plant here at the top of the page. And everything on the south side of Waxhaw Highway flows south by gravity to a pump station here, which then is pumped back up to that same gravity line that goes north. So all of the flow in downtown Waxhaw area is either flowing by gravity to this line or is being pumped into this line and moving forward that way. And the constraints we have is there's an area of this pipeline here that is at capacity, and we also on the south end have capacity issues in the pipeline and pump station here. So we looked at a number of different alternatives, and the objective was to work with the town of Waxhaw first on their development plan and go, what are reasonable flow projections that we can anticipate from the town over the next 10, 20, 30 years in the planning horizon. Expand our wastewater model to include that entire area. Evaluate potential alternatives to resolve those capacity constraints, and then bring forward a recommended improvement plan to the Waxhaw area to the board. And that's what we did in the workshop. So we looked at some 4 different alternatives, and they're not shown on this map, but I could talk to you briefly about them. One was just, let's go through the center of town here and upgrade the sewer line and take out that 8-inch line and put in a 18, 24, 12-inch, depending on where it was. And obviously, as the board could see, that's running through a lot of existing neighborhoods would cause significant disruption to the community and had some significant cost involved in doing that. So that was not only a very disruptive alternative, it was an expensive alternative. We looked at the ability to take some of this flow and pump it over into the Millbridge area, and then bring a new line up through the center part of Waxhaw here that would bypass this area. And again, that turned into being a very expensive alternative. And the third alternative that we looked at was essentially the chosen alternative that said, can we take all this flow from the south and bring it over to the eastern side of town where we have this existing Blight Creek Interceptor, which has a significant amount of available capacity in that pipe. And that's essentially the solution when we costed it out, looked at at the environmental issues, the cost issues, the neighborhood disruption issues, this became the preferred option. So what we're doing is we're upgrading some existing gravity sewer line here. We're gonna move and upgrade the pump stations. Pump station's at capacity. It sits on an easement on private property with easement access issues. So we're gonna move it to road access, upgrade it, and then follow an existing utility easement with a force main to pump over to the Blight Creek Interceptor. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about this Blight Creek Interceptor extension. There's actually a project we have underway right now. It's about complete design, and we're in easement acquisition for that project. So this project was not part of this master plan update. This was actually part of the previously approved plan in 2016 outside the downtown development. And this project was driven to be able to get these pump stations, these little pump stations online. And this was a priority issue back in, as far back as 2010, 2011 for the Waxhaw elected officials, was to improve the reliability and provide some redundancy to that operation. So to make this project work, we do need to complete this Blight Creek Interceptor project. And then what we're asking the board to approve as part of this master plan update is this concept of building an upgraded force main, an upgraded gravity line, a new pump station, and a force main that will carry flow over to the Interceptor. The master plan still identifies development work that would be done by others, by developers that are outside the downtown development area. So we did look at how this part of Waxhaw would be served, and we master plan that out. We also master plan the remainder of the south side of how that would be served. And again, all the lines in blue are work that would be done by developers as those areas develop, since they're outside the downtown area. So the benefits of this program is that provides adequate pipe and plumbing capacity for the downtown area through 2050, because we're taking a lot of load off existing pipe, moving it over to Blight Creek, where we have a tremendous amount of capacity. And so it gives us a long-term solution in downtown. It alleviates the existing capacity issues, eliminates the problem we have with that pump station periodic discharges. It minimizes easement disruptions compared to the other alternatives where we're going through people's backyards. It leverages this existing Blight Creek project that we're talking about, and I do have some slides that I'll be putting up to further explain that one after we get through this. So it further leverages that existing project, makes better use of that extension by being able to utilize that capacity. And it minimizes cost. This was the least cost alternative of the ones we looked at. So the estimated project cost for this entire effort is about $4.3 million. And our next step is that we would recommend the Board of County Commissioners approve this Waxhaw Master Plan addendum. By incorporating that into the addendum, then that would allow us to move forward with this program implementation. With that, let me quickly find this Blight Creek Interceptor project. I did not have a chance to preload that. So again, this is a project that is in our current capital improvement program. And you'll recognize the slide. Again, the map here is the Waxhaw area. This is downtown. This is the area we were just talking about where we have capacity concerns. This Blight Creek Interceptor project, again, was driven in the original master plan from 2011 to eliminate all these little pump stations we have in what's titled the Waxhaw neighborhood and the Wysocki neighborhood. And this is old technology that was used probably 40, 50 years ago. We inherited that system when we took over the Waxhaw system from Waxhaw, I believe back in the 80s. These are individual pump stations that would serve one or two properties. So we did the engineering and looked at how we could run sewer lines to serve those areas. And essentially what we're doing is on the Waxhaw area, coming off the existing Blight Creek Interceptor with a new sewer line that would run into those areas to be able to pick up those pump stations and flow by gravity this way. Right now, these are all pumping into that same downtown line that has capacity issues. So the plan then was, let's get them off that capacity issue and get them over to Blight Creek. And it also then extends the Blight Creek Interceptor further south to pick up that Wysocki area. So what we're doing in that is really meeting a need identified by the Waxhaw elected officials back in 2010 and 11, saying we want better reliability in our sewer system, let's get these off of line. The extension allows us to do that. And by extending that line, we can now connect down here, and that's this clearing area across here is that same interceptor, that same utility easement I showed you in the previous slide.
May I ask a question while he's there?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Ed, that Armfield Street, you know, where we have the purple here on the up the top.
Yeah.
All those pump stations, if they were fed by gravity into that, would that not create capacity in that downtown?
That will create some capacity, yes, in that downtown area, but it's not significant. Again, these are serving small residential.
So wouldn't that do it faster, or wouldn't that do it, could you not do that project quicker and get the capacity there?
The plan is, this project is already 100% designed. Again, this project that's in front of you is already completely designed. We're in the easement acquisition process right now, and our plan is to go out to construction as soon as we get easements.
So that would,
is moving forward.
just doing that portion of it, that would create
Both
capacity.
portions.
Just doing the one would create capacity, right?
Well,
Or you're taking-
any load you take off, if you take 3 houses off of that existing sewer, it's gonna create that much more capacity.
Good, thank you.
Commissioner Helms.
If you go back to the slide that showed the downtown where it was going, you talked about an 8-inch going up
Yes,
to the left of 16, and that's our problem, that's our constriction.
this is our constriction, this line here.
Yep, right in there. If you take these loads off and put it over to the Blythe Creek, what kind of time frame will that buy you in that 8-inch line? Is it next year, 10 years?
I don't know if we have a number of how much capacity is going on with just that project. Again, there's not a lot of existing flow. As we've gone in easement acquisitions, a lot of vacant properties in this area. It's residential in nature, so we have not done the numbers to go, gee, is this 100 units, is it 500 units, and what's the rate of growth? We haven't done that analysis.
Do you have requests for residential growth in that area?
In the Waxhaw area?
Yes.
We have at least 5 or 6 projects, both residential and commercial, that are in sketch plan review and other various stages of review.
Do they all go to the Blythe Creek that has excess capacity?
Now, the ones where those 5 or 6 are all going to want to go to the existing
8-inch.
8-inch line. I mean, that's the area that is being developed.
What's the percentage residential to commercial?
In our customer base,
No, in that, what we're trying to facilitate here.
I'd have to refer you back to the land use plan adopted by the town in terms of what they were looking at and how they projected that.
You
So
have,
we work with them on that to look at overall flow projections based upon what was commercial, what was higher density, what's low density, to come up with those flow projection numbers.
majority residential,
I believe so.
90%.
I won't speculate.
Has this been presented to the Waxhaw Town Council?
It's been presented to, we made a presentation, and I made a presentation to the Waxhaw Town Council probably a year or so ago, advising them of the alternatives we were looking at and that we're going through this plan. We did not want to present anything to the Waxhaw Town Council prior to presenting to this board. So we have met with the Waxhaw Town Manager and have met with him and his staff. So at the staff level, they've been involved, but I didn't believe it was appropriate to present a preliminary report to that town council without this board first having the opportunity.
So is it dependent, if we approve it, does it still have to go for approval with the understanding of Waxhaw?
It does not. I mean, the board controls the utility system and utility infrastructure. We certainly plan to bring it to the Waxhaw Town Council to advise them of the solutions. Again, we've been working with staff from Waxhaw on this for the past year and a half. So there's been heavy engagement at the staff level on the solution.
And what has been staff's feedback on the proposal?
I mean, staff is, you know, in my words, is I think is very encouraged, pleased that we're working on a very cooperative basis with them, looking at their land use plan, what's a realistic growth scenario, how do we best solve these problems. They were very concerned, as you can imagine, about a solution that would tear up existing neighborhoods, and that was really the original solution. So I think they're encouraged that we have a solution that has really minimal disruption to existing communities. Everything is on the south side and then pumps over to the east. So it appears to be, in my mind, a very good solution that's cost effective and has really minimal disruption to existing communities.
Commissioner Rush?
Do we not have or does Waxhaw not have a construction easement like we have now, where we can go through and upfit pipes, repair pipes, repair the system?
No, we maintain our own easements for our utilities.
No. I'm asking you, you're saying it would disrupt the neighborhoods to go through them and repair the system or upfit the system.
Right.
Do we not have a construction easement to do that right now, already purchased?
No, we have permanent easements over our existing sewer lines. So we have typically a 30-foot easement across our existing sewer line.
Right.
But these are running in people's backyard. So to replace that sewer line, you'd be going into that easement, widening it to probably a temporary construction easement of 50 feet.
Right.
Taking out whatever grew up during that time that may be there, and literally these run through people's backyards.
So I know that we don't really care about that when we're doing one of our projects, so.
Well, we care a lot about that when we're
Well,
doing our projects. And
we
we do
say we
significant
do.
outreach to try to work with the community in doing those projects.
So when we go through and we're talking about acquiring property to do the other thing, we're still gonna disrupt people's lives. Those folks know that there's sewer in the backyard there. Is it just because the system's so old, I guess, is the question that is there fence over this? Cause we have a permanent easement, I would think. So fences, trees, anything like that that's gonna be the problem, or?
I'm sure there are.
So we don't have an easement there, we just have a.
No, we do. We have a 30-foot easement over most of this existing sewer line. But we will need more than that in order to construct a new parallel sewer line alongside of that. So that's the Blight Creek project. It was essentially designed to alleviate these old pump stations, improve the system reliability, make use of this Blight Creek Interceptor line here, which is significantly underutilized at this point. And again, a byproduct of that line extending on the south end was the master plan was very easily able to then tie into that.
But you don't have any plans to get rid of that small eight-inch that?
No, that 8-inch line, by taking the whole south end of Waxhaw off of that 8-inch line, that 8-inch line provides sufficient capacity for the next 20+ years. So we don't have to go into that neighborhood and tear it up.
Okay.
Commissioner
Is
Hale?
that 20 years with the growth of the 5 or 6 commercial, not commercial, but residential development that they're proposed? Is that taken into consideration the volumes?
We looked at at least three different growth scenarios with the town of Waxhaw. So Waxhaw has a pretty aggressive land use plan that provide for significant density in a lot of their area. And we work with their planning staff very diligently to try to ascertain, based upon their land use plan and based upon the actual rate of growth they're seeing and the rate of growth they're anticipating, what do the 20-year flow numbers look like? What do the 30-year flow numbers look like? So this is not a build-out number if Waxhaw builds out according to the land use plan, but we think it's a realistic projection of the kind of total development that that Waxhaw area will see over the next 20, 30 years.
How many gallons will this facilitate?
You have that handy? This is Aubrey Lofton, who's Division Director for Planning and Resource Management. And that's max capacity. That's not equivalent units though. That's not an average flow. No. So maybe 1.5 million gallons per day as an average?
So 3 million total,
No, 1.5 would be the average flow.
but
that
the
you'd be
max
getting
flow.
from that development. The 3 MGD is the size of the pump station. You have to design for worst case conditions on the pump station.
So 3 MGD is the
Worst
design.
case instantaneous flow through that pump station during a rain event.
And
Because you gotta keep the sewer in the pipe.
and 12 Mile Creek handles how many gallons per day?
We wanna talk apples and apples, so it's 6 million gallons per day on an average monthly flow, which would equate to that 1.5 MGD. And again, that's a 2050 number, 1.5 additional flow. You know, by 2050, we're projected to be at least 12 million gallons per day in 12 Mile Creek, if not 15.
Well, I know when I first came on the board back in 2010, one of the real issues was the town of Mineral Springs, and I'm not sure Ed was necessarily in favor of that project when we first started talking about it, because there might not have been enough customers there. But bottom line is it the right thing to do for Mineral Springs, and I think we got that done. I know if you happen to be in downtown Waxhaw this weekend, there was a lot going on, and there's a lot going on in downtown Waxhaw about every weekend. Nobody will deny the growth that has taken place there. We made that commitment back then to work with these smaller municipalities, both large and small, to bring them up to date with their sewer systems and their sewer plans. And from what you've told me, you've worked with the town of Waxhaw to look at the various scenarios, come up with this plan, and it is a plan. And so I would move that we approve this Waxhaw wastewater system plan, master plan addendum as part of the 2016 Water and Wastewater Master Plan update, and give Waxhaw the confidence to move forward with their plans. Discussion. Commissioner Rushing.
What's the timeline on completing this?
About 3 years.
So this won't be online for 3 years?
That's correct.
So the immediate commercial needs of Waxhaw, which is not as great as the residential needs, but if they had immediate commercial needs for offices or buildings like that, how can we facilitate that happening?
Well, that's where this Blight Creek project will shunt a little flow off of that, and that will increase a little bit of capacity. And that project is already, again, the design is complete. We're ready to go to construction this year as soon as we get our easements resolved. So that project will be finished in maybe a year or 18 months. So that'll create some short-term interim capacity until this major project is finished,
For commercial?
or whatever shows up.
Still would like to know what's gonna show up. I tell you what, I'm gonna vote against this tonight. I'm not against it, not against the project as said, but, when we look at the rate of growth, when we look at the amount of growth that this is gonna create, I do think we need to take a little bit more time and look at it. You said that the board controls utilities, and that's correct, and a lot of people are asking for a break from some of the residential growth. The commercial growth is not as great. I don't think, we talk about the 87-13 split, but yet we're gonna facilitate it, and like Commissioner Simpson said, there's a lot going on, and there's gonna be a lot going on sooner, I think, with this. If we got an opportunity, I think, to plan it out a little bit better. But that's the only reason I'm voting against it tonight. I think we can delay it a while and look at some more options and look at what we're gonna do, but that's just my opinion.
Mr. Helms?
The information I have, speaking with the mayor this afternoon, I haven't been conveyed anything different from that. It does concern me that we have one of the Waxhaw commissioners sitting here with us tonight. The consideration of making them aware of it before it comes to this board, which you tell us is the final entity, and we get to make that decision. I can't support it 2 weeks from now after you had those conversations, and I'm assured that Waxhaw's comfortable. I know for a fact Waxhaw downtown needs some relief, and the basic design looks like it would help them. But for that reason, I can't support it. 2 weeks from now, maybe a totally different story. Once the parties involved have full information.
Further comment? Commissioner Akmus?
I certainly understand the Commissioner Helms and Rushing's concerns, but after having been advised by the mayor that they're very much in favor of this and very much want it, and I think back to Commissioner Simpson's comments that this is something that we promised these municipalities that we would work on doing, and certainly we have worked with them to accommodate this, and I think it would be in poor taste to vote against this at this point. So I will support it.
Further discussion?
And that leaves me. And I'm between Stony and I'm between County. And you know what? I've seen texts on both sides. But again, I'm gonna side with, I will approve this because of my understanding, and I know I'm probably not up to speed like everybody else, that this was something that was promised, that you've worked with their county manager, their town manager. Hopefully the town manager is speaking to their commissioners, and I wanna keep our promise to the town and to the citizens.
Further comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Takes us to new business and the Sun Valley relocation study.
Yes, commissioners, probably back in the early fall, I made you aware of some correspondence that then Chairman Akmus had received from the Union County School Board as it related to the convenience site we have at Sun Valley High School. At that point in time, they requested that based upon where our convenience site was located and their expansion plans that were approved as part of the referendum, that we would need to relocate that facility. At that time, I reminded them that we did have a lease agreement that runs till 2022, but that we would certainly work with them to the best of our ability as it related to looking at other sites. I had a discussion with the superintendent, I believe it was last week, who indicated that they could definitely grant us with some additional time if the decision was made by this board to relocate the site. And so before you this evening is really the decision of what options we have been able to identify, what those options will cost to create a new convenience site to replace our existing site, and seek your direction before we take any other action.
Before I start, I wanted to introduce John Evars. John is our solid waste division director, who's been with us for not quite a year now. So most of you have not had a chance to see John yet. As Cindy said, with this, we're looking at the potential for relocating the Sun Valley Site. That site's been in operation since 1987. As with most of our sites, it operates Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. it's in a suburban setting, which is a little different from most of our other sites, and is actually within the Indian Trail Town limits right now. It is located on school property on Wesley Chapel Road between the middle school and the high school. And one of the things that's significant, this site, compared to all of our other convenience sites, has a much higher percentage of recyclables coming in. So it's being used, as you can imagine, in more of a suburban setting as compared to our rural settings. A lot of people in this area have curbside collection, but are using this to take advantage of the recycling programs we offer. And I think actually a little more than 50% of the waste stream that comes to that site is recyclables. And again, the Board of Education has requested we relocate this facility. So these are the locations of our existing facilities. And the board can see the grayed out area is incorporated municipalities, and the white area is unincorporated. You can see the majority of our sites are in unincorporated, and the only other one that's within the corporate limits is Piedmont, and the board knows that it's still a very rural setting in Piedmont. So when we were approached by the schools to look at relocation, we immediately started looking at potential sites. And we looked at what's out on the market. Do we have any willing sellers? So we looked at vacant property in general proximity to the existing location. We want to make sure that we're willing sellers, so we're looking at real estate listings to see if there was property actually listed, or was there property that Union County owned, or is there property that the school board owns that would be useful. And obviously we've been doing that. We were looking at adjacent uses of property to see how that would fit. Based upon that preliminary screening, we identified 4 potential sites. So in the middle of this map is the existing Sun Valley site on Wesley Chapel Road. We identified what we termed Site A at the Sardis Elementary School. It is a site owned by the school boards that the school board identified for us. So as we got into this, the school board actually identified about 5 pieces of property that they were willing to make available for this application. Only 2 of them made this short list because the others were just in the wrong geography or wrong configuration. So Sardis Road Elementary, property owned by the school board. The Allroad Site is a private property that's listed for sale right now. That's right off of Wesley Chapel also. We looked at our Public Works Operations Center off of Gold Mine Road, and we own some 50 acres of adjacent property to that. The plan is by Union County is to develop that property at some point in time, either as additional county facilities or potential. The board will recall it's adjacent to major industrial park that's owned by the city of Monroe. And the last site we looked at was the Sanford Lane site, which is also a school board property right near Weddington Road. So we had our consultant assist us on this and go through a more detailed evaluation of these 4 properties. We looked at water and sewer availability, water being an important aspect, sewer not so much. These are, again, manned part-time, 3 days a week. Most of our existing sites do not have sewer. We have convenient facilities there for staff. Is there power? What do the site logistics look like in terms of ingress, egress, visibility to the public? What is the traffic potential impact or constraint in that regard? What's the development feasibility in terms of the lay of the land? Are there wetlands on the site? Are there other constraints on the site? What does the topography look like? And then obviously cost was a significant issue. So the first site, the Sardis Road Elementary site, is a 21-acre parcel. It sits, this is the elementary school. The property sits behind the school. It's a wooded lot right now. We would enter in off this side road, the name of which escapes me right now. Oakwood, thank you, John. And again, it's a smaller property. There are some power easements that run across it, so we had to really fit it into this corner here to get out of these other utility easements. The The second site we looked at, site B, was Sanford Lane, and that is the one near Weddington Road. This is St. John's Forest development here. So we back up onto a major residential development. There's residential development to the north of it. Access is not obvious, which is one of the big constraints with this. You're really going off a road, off a road, off a road to get to this. So it's not on a major thoroughfare and readily visible and accessible, and we'd be running traffic through other areas. The operations center site, again, the county owns this entire parcel here. This area is wetlands and was a former effluent storage pond, so not immediately developable. But this is high dry ground, actually on a hill, and the thought was, this is our operations center here. We looked at this site, rejected because, again, the ground wasn't suitable, but it could go here. Good access off Gold Mine Road, but if we did develop this as an industrial park in the future, you're putting a facility right at the entrance to your industrial park, and would probably relocate it in the future if you could develop that parcel. And then the Allroad Site, this is a privately owned site. This again is right off Wesley Chapel Road, is right off the map here. It's a few blocks in. The challenge here is it's a flat piece of property. Laying out the site's a little challenging. It does have railroad frontage across here. The challenge is the property owner wants $375,000 for this property. And all the other properties, either we own or the school board is willing to let us use. So when we looked at those 4 sites, and our report has a more detailed analysis of each of them, but for brevity, tried to boil down to some of the key significant considerations. Sardis Road was good access. It has most of the utilities, and it was the lowest cost alternative. It didn't need any major road development. The grading was pretty good. Sanford Lane, again, had poor access, no utilities, and was the highest cost except for Orr Road when you consider the cost of land acquisition. The Operations Center site was not a bad choice. It's a little more expensive than the Sardis Road site, but does have the potential to be a throwaway project sometime in the future, and that's why we didn't rank that higher. And the Orr Road site just really got blown away on the cost aspects when you looked at having to buy the property. So staff's recommendation is twofold. One, we need to get a direction from the board. Does the board want to proceed with the relocation of the site? Some of the board members may recall staff actually recommended about 4 or 5 years ago abandoning the site or donating it to Indian Trail to use as a recycling center that they would own and operate. And the board at that time did not approve that, and there was some consternation from the community about eliminating the site. So the first decision is, do we move it? And if we move it, the recommendation from staff is to move it to the Sardis Road site.
Have we received any community input on
We have not.
these sites?
We have just dealt with the school board on.
All right, and the second question is, if you were to put it on this site, what does the buffering look like between?
So the site is pretty well wooded right now. There is some tree line on the north side. The way we laid out the site is, so this is the school on the north side here. This is essentially driveway. All the dumpsters that people are dumping into would be on the back side here. So from the school parking lot, if you're looking through, you would essentially see a driveway with people pulling around and dumping. And obviously we would heavily landscape and buffer this northern perimeter also.
Is there a fence there now, or would there be?
There would be when we will definitely fence the entire property. And you can see it's heavily wooded on the south side and the east side.
I guess, I have some concern about it being that close to a school.
Me too.
Elementary school.
Yeah.
Yeah, have we consulted with law enforcement as to their perception on putting this type of facility?
We have not, but 3 of our existing sites are on school property. So So we,
Yeah, but you know, when we put those there, it was a different day and time.
this is a more suburban setting than our other facilities.
And it's elementary. It's an elementary school.
Do you, are you aware what's at the end of Oakwood Road?
I believe it's their
Yeah,
park.
yeah, that's King
Indian
Creek,
Trails Park, Indian Trails Park.
Indian Trails Park. And that's a very narrow street.
Yes.
So, I agree with Commissioner Harrison that, being close to elementary school, it's one thing you got teenagers with having volumes of people coming in, but kindergarten, that, it's a little different concern. Now, assume it's $1 lease from the schools.
That's the lease agreement we have on all of our other sites, and we would assume that that would continue.
Commissioner Rush?
There's a choice on moving the one in Indian Trail or not? You said that assuming we want to move the one from Indian
Well,
Trail.
assuming we want to relocate it and not just shut it down.
So
is
just,
what I meant.
we either shut it down, and the schools are asking for that.
Yeah, the schools are requesting that we abandon the site. It's part of their construction plan to utilize that property. So the choice is, do we replace it, being in a suburban setting like this, with another convenience site? Or do we let the community utilize curbside collection and recycling programs they offer?
You know, I'm looking at the choices that you had, I'm the one that we have control over, because even this one, if they need that for something in the future, there's a chance we might have to shut that down. So I think the county property, would probably be my choice. The second choice on the list, or second, the one at the, center that we already have.
The one off of Gold Mine?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you look at, the Sardis Road facility is on the opposite side of 74. You're adding 15, 20 minutes just to get from Sun Valley High School over there sometimes. But the gold mine does provide a convenient site for Western Union County. If we move it over there, it's closer to Piedmont than it is Western Union County. So I agree with Commissioner Rushing that I think, one, they can't come ask for it back if we do it on gold mine. So I'd also recommend that we utilize the gold mine site.
I'm in agreement.
I need to make a motion.
It would help.
Make a motion that we go with option C, site C.
And that's the gold mine site.
That's the
right?
gold mine site.
You have a motion, discussion, further discussion?
Is it unrealistic to think that we need to get, or should get, community input on this? And the folks that are using it?
Pleasure of the board.
No, I think I've made my point clear.
Let's see.
Part of our drive on this, when we first met with the school board staff were telling us we needed to be out this summer. So we went in.
We actually should already be gone, yes, from their original
What
request.
is the usage of this compared to our other sites?
This is one of our higher use sites.
Higher use?
And it's a lot of recycling going on in here.
And is it mostly from people on the western side of?
We assume so. I mean, we don't track people by addresses or IDs or driver's license. So we looked at where the area is most likely being fed, and that's why we looked at, there's some unincorporated further to the north, which is why the Sardis Road site did get on the list, is incorporated further to the south. We said we need to be in that general area to see who's picking up, but we're not exactly sure where anybody comes from that comes into our sites.
Are there any homes affected? Can you go back to the overhead of the site C?
There are some homes on Gold Mine, east of your facility, I think.
Yes.
But most of it's
Most of the
industrial.
rural commercial.
Gold Mine is residential from here, from our facility, going west. That's all residential along Gold Mine Road. You're not seeing a lot of the road here. So back this way on Gold Mine Road, going east from our facility is all the industrial park. Going west from our facility is all residential.
I think
So
part of the right.
where is the site that we were talking about, an industrial park?
This entire hillside here
Okay,
is
so
our
that's,
property.
so if we put that there and decide
It's
to
at the
develop that,
entrance.
then we're gonna have to move it.
Probably. You're not gonna develop a high-end industrial park with a
With
garbage
exit.
receiving facility at the front door.
So, what's going to be the cost involved in moving it?
You'd essentially tear this down and build a new one, so you've got $750,000 thereabout as a cost for building one of these.
Or we could abandon it at that point.
Yes.
Because you don't have any time frame on when this park is gonna be built. Okay. So there's a potential that we could meet a CIP going here and then just have an outlay later on.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, we're going to get there.
could I
Mr.
request a clarification on item 31, the rezoning?
Sure.
As I think we briefly talked about before, the law has changed on that, and when the motion was made to approve the appropriate consistency statement, that would have been fine before October of last year. I was remiss in not calling to your attention that we need to determine whether it was consistent or inconsistent. And what I heard the board saying was that you were denying the application on the basis that it was inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. I just need to confirm that for the record, that that is your consistency statement.
Hearing no nays, that was not our intent. That was,
That was our intent.
That was our intent.
Let me, I'll not read the whole statement, but let me read the title of it. The board's, the consistency statement that was approved, and I believe that's been passed out to you, is to deny the amendment because the proposal is inconsistent with the current comprehensive plan.
Inconsistent. It's outside the neighborhood, so.
need another motion, or all heads nodding sufficient?
Let's do it by motion if you want.
Okay. Everybody familiar with the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And I believe that takes us to Ms. Kodak.
And I have no comments this evening, Chairman.
Ms. Harrison, we'll let you kick us off tonight. How's that?
Okay. I'd like to thank Ed Kashecki for putting me in that spot. However, that's what I signed up for, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Commissioner Akmus,
I have no comments.
Commissioner Helms,
Yeah, I'd like to welcome Commissioner Harrison. I look forward to serving with you, and other than that, I have nothing else to say.
Mr. Rushing.
No comments.
Welcome, Ms. Harrison. Know you'll be a great asset to the board. We look forward to working with you. And with no other comments besides tomorrow's my 42nd wedding anniversary, I'll move to adjourn. All in favor say aye.